love, like, there was a while in my life where it's like everything was just copy and paste.
Oh, my gosh.
Like, everything moving forward.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just like, and eventually, like, it got so jacked up.
Oh, really?
It
Yeah.
saved the thumbnail.
Oh,
No.
I love that we're talking tech on here. Nobody cares about any of this
Oh,
stuff.
they are totally into it. They're like, hey, how exactly?
Oh, you changed the title of the other episode.
Yeah.
Oh, I did? Son of a gun.
So does the other one say 925? Josh looks so happy about this.
No.
Well,
we
no,
could
it's
swap
just
it.
because I don't remember what the Metaxas one said, and I had a description.
Oh, that is breaking my heart.
We'll get it back. I got it. It's no problem.
If you're wondering, it's not.
Okay.
It's Eric Metax. No,
It was actually a live interview with Donald Trump. So that's the previous episode, even though it don't matter what it says on there right now. So that's if you want to check it out. So we're live again. We're trying this again here, going live with you guys. Do us a favor and like for those who are watching, like and subscribe. That will help us and alert people to what we're doing.
Shares are great, and then Josh is going to have this open on a separate window so that we can hang out and chat while we talk.
That's right. I forgot about that. We want to hear from you guys. That's exactly right. There were some great comments last week that we missed, so we were pretty bummed about it. Not used to going live. So,
well, we are back. Not used to going live. If there was an interruption like that, what do you think? We are back.
Yeah,
Guys,
it just worked.
We are. So don't turn it down, Josh. Keep that. Yeah, keep that on.
This is so professional.
We're good at this, everybody.
Testing the sound.
We had the other.
Is this? Did it go on the same feed or the same live or a different live?
It looks
on the
like
same
oh,
link.
good.
Same.
So it just kind of had a little hiccup.
Yeah.
Hiccup.
Good. All right. Well, we're gonna try and figure this out as we go.
Yeah.
Gonna have some fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, let's. Why don't we just dive right in?
Sure. Welcome to You Won't Hate It, where we talk about life through the lens of pastors at the length of a cigar. I'm Josh.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Floyd.
Wait, don't say it yet. Now.
I'm Floyd.
No, not you, Joe.
I'm Joe.
I was switching cameras
Yeah.
to try and follow everything.
By the way, if you know somebody wants to produce a live feed, we do have a available.
Tell them we don't
opening.
need them.
Yeah.
We'll buy you lunch, and you can have one of Ryan's cigars.
We are
Actually,
look at you wore a
he'd
black
rather
shirt.
give us lunch.
They were very well. That if I did, they did a horrible job. If I did call, you guys suck at this.
Short sleeve V-neck. It's like, Josh, that's not even close, man. You didn't even.
I'm surprised I'm not getting comments where people are like, "Hey, Josh, you're wearing glasses and also wearing glasses."
Oh, I just saw your other glasses.
Yeah, that's it's just kind of
in
funny.
case it gets bright.
It is
Where's your
kinda
fourth
funny.
pair? I don't care where the third pair is. Where's the fourth pair?
They're in my back pocket.
Okay, that's good to know. All right, what's on tap for today, guys? Let's dive right in.
All right, today,
dive
topic number
in.
1. This is an interesting article here. Doomsday cult leader who thinks he's Jesus keeps 1,500 kids as sex slaves on an island.
I was going to say something, and I was going to interrupt with a joke, and I'm glad I didn't because of the last part of that story. So that was good avoidance there.
I don't have any details. So I was late coming in today, so I didn't hear any of this.
I can,
Kilario.
and it's in the Philippines,
Okay.
and it's in a specific district of the Philippines.
That's the Filipinos are the highest trafficked people group in the world.
Okay. And this story is because there are a group of people, I want to say it's called Save the Children, that organization is demanding that the government go in and rescue those kids from there.
Good.
So that's where the story is coming out of.
Good.
And the other part of it is they started as I'm just doing the summary, I read the story once, but they started as a nonprofit organization.
Wait, Save My Children?
Nope, yep.
Started as a nonprofit.
Yep, and then they basically, and it's always him and another guy in the picture, so I'm guessing, he's the guy who thinks he's Jesus, but then, what happened was there was an earthquake, and they used that as a way to get people to come over to the island, and it said to save your eternal soul. So then they kind of used the whole tragedy to join, and if you joined, it would save your soul from eternal damnation, and it kind of grew from there. Then they changed their name from being organization to what their new name is now, and I can't remember. It's in Philippines.
It's a cult called Omega de Salanera.
So
So I'm going to go on the record and say I don't like this.
yeah.
I'm
Is
gonna-
Omega de Salanera would be the beginning of the sun? Is that right? It might be close, something like that.
Sounds like it.
So
It's the Solanero part, though.
No, it's the
something like
Well,
that. Solanaire.
omega could also mean like greatness.
Okay. So anyway, so that's what's going on. But then, what the question came up for us in the research on the story is, what do you do with people who claim to be Jesus or that Jesus has come back? Like, what do you do with all that?
Okay, so let's start with we are going to. We don't even need to talk about how vile and disgusting.
We all know that. We're all on board.
Like, we get it.
There's
We don't need to,
there's
like-
nobody on the other side of that
Exactly.
argument.
We don't need to like talk about. There have been a number of people who have claimed to be Jesus. From my earliest memory is probably David Koresh,
And he says reincarnate, so just so he's using
Yeah.
reincarnation theology.
and I've
Theology is a weird word.
since
Beliefs.
Koresh with what is that, Waco?
Yeah.
Since then, I can remember like half a dozen probably that have claimed.
Koresh's ability is they said he had the New Testament memorized, so nobody could defeat him in an argument. That was what they would
he
say
had,
about him.
and he had a
And his theory was that he was spreading the seed through sex, right? That was like, so that's how he's the
Right.
sex dynamic, is he's spreading the seed of salvation.
Right.
Mostly safe for work here.
mostly safe for work.
Mostly
It'd
safe
be
for work.
MS.
Yeah.
Mostly safe FW.
Yeah.
I can't figure it out because I'm like, am I the only one? And I'm like, I'm not saying I'm like a Bible scholar expert guy walking around the street like he was, because he was. That's the part where I think we get confused, is that when he first got here, he was a guy born of a virgin birth,
Right.
was raised like a normal human, had a normal human life, and then at the age of 30, that's when he started his ministry and had a 3-year insane ministry on this earth, 3 years of performing all the miracles, then was crucified, died on a cross, rose again from the dead. The second, very much like a spiritual, massive thing, right? Or am I wrong?
Well, before we get to the end, that's that end part, right? What are the tests you're putting this guy through to prove he's Jesus? I feel like we need to do some Jesus testing with this guy. We see this guy, he claims to be Jesus. I think we just organically go to, all right, let's do some Jesus tests.
What do you do,
perform
like
some miracles.
Yeah,
up-
something. What
fill
does
up the
incarnate Jesus have to do? Jesus himself had to be like, you're
chose
not
to.
God. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like, nobody's believing him. He's like, all right, well, let me show you. So what are the tests that this guy, are you putting him through to prove he's Jesus?
How is any human just being like, okay, but I don't care what you tell me. Like, if you're like,
Just drops in the water.
yeah, but it's like, oh, I work at Save Mart. And it's something small that I would like verification of what you just said.
Right.
If you're like, I'm God incarnate, I'm like, cool, man. What? Like, I gotta, and it's weird because if you are Jesus, you don't need to prove anything to me.
Right.
But I'm probably going to watch you
Right.
and be like, dude, he literally had to drive to the grocery store to get food. Like, that's not, come on. Like, what's happening here? And again, out.
I don't think there has to be any testing occur. I don't think we need to fill up the bathtub and have him take a walk. I think it's exactly what you said. He's not coming back born. He's not coming back through typical human methods. And I think that in and of itself is enough to know, hey, this guy isn't Jesus. He's drank
what-
his own Kool-Aid.
There's just been,
I feel like you could make an argument, a loony person. They've been like, yeah, this isn't the second coming. I'm just here for a short stint, check things out. Like, the Family Guy version of Jesus where he
So
has to work
that's
at the
good.
record store.
Right, right.
Yeah.
He's like, it's not the second coming. He's like, you're right. When I come back then, that's when I'll be doing that.
Yeah.
But right now, I realize I left some work undone.
okay.
So I'm showing back up here now.
What?
So you're
let's-
not perfect?
Let's role play this.
He's like, I'm not finished.
So cool. Like, what?
Even though I said it was
What is
finished
it
on
that
the
you have?
cross.
Exactly.
When you said on the cross.
What is it that you have left to do?
Mostly, I have to reinvigorate the church
Oh.
because the church right now is getting excited about what's going on.
Love it. How are you going to do that?
Mostly by living on an island.
Yeah.
Well, and isn't that
yeah,
what
that's
you
confusing right now. Yeah.
isn't that
canceled.
what you charged the church to do to it for
I
itself?
don't know if you
when
haven't
left?
noticed, you guys haven't done a great job.
You're
so
not wrong
I've,
there.
uh,
I mean, that's
I've
a
decided
valid
to
point.
return.
That's true.
It hasn't been great.
So
Wait.
I think that is when I would say, so the first time you came, you literally proved yourself. You didn't have to, but you chose to prove yourself through miracles. I probably wouldn't even give him that out. But I would say you proved yourself Lord to forgive sins, and
Right.
that's why you healed the guy.
Yeah.
What have you done?
Weirdly, I agree with John MacArthur. I'm a cessationist, even though I'm Jesus.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay.
Even though I'm Jesus.
Okay. So I don't know what's wrong with us. We do everything we can every episode to get canceled. I don't know why. We just
Cessationist Jesus. That should be the title of the podcast.
Cessationist Jesus is pretty funny.
So yes. So weirdly, I also agree that the miracles stop
Yeah.
with the apostles.
So take the individual. There will, in fact, the Bible even says there will be many people who claim to be like
Right.
him.
Yeah.
So how do you test? Let's not even go with the Jesus concept, because I think any remotely thinking person.
But he's got he's got thousands of people following him. So we think remotely thinking like, how did they? And I know this is like we're asking, how do cults work? And it's usually people outsiders who don't feel like they belong, and somebody shows them attention and they're kind to them.
But because they talk about like there's a how you how you segregate the population, and then you promise them things, but you kind of turn everyone into us versus them. So the cult concept is one thing.
And it worked. I mean, honestly, the neo-Nazis are massive, right? So it's basically a big cult.
Well, and it's happened. The world's against you, so you have to band together.
Right.
And
And then you isolate that thinking.
Isolate,
And then
that's
you
what was so hard.
pour into that
Hence,
thinking.
living on an island. Do you know what I mean? Like now, everybody's thinking in the same way. So it's like cults do exist. So you're almost asking, how does a thinking person? And we all say the thinking person doesn't.
yeah, I will say though, there has been a number of. I just heard a guy last week on, I think it was Rogan's podcast, who was talking about cults. Really interesting concept where this guy studied them, and he's like, man, there's like famous musicians and people who are actually quite intelligent who fall prey to this for a number of
reasons. Would you
reasons.
classify Scientology as a cult?
Scientology. That's where I was headed too.
Oh.
Yeah.
So not only are we canceled, we're going to get murdered.
Yeah, that's for sure.
That's awesome.
That's for
No,
sure.
just disappear.
It's that group. I mean, here, let me you determine whether that Scientology is real. L. Ron Hubbard writes bad science fiction novels in the 80s,
Dianetics.
then determines later on that they're not science fiction novels, that they're real.
Hold on, I did it again. While you were talking, the camera. Good at this.
Hey, Bruno!
Everybody. No. What I was going to say is you just said I'll let you determine if Scientology is real.
Or if it's a cult. How about that?
Okay, so your question
Is it a cult?
gosh,
And
am I going to tear my fingernail off? Go ahead.
And
I
so
got
is it a cult? And so again, in the 80s, he writes Dianetics. It's science fiction, poorly written science fiction novels. And then he determines that they are real. Just kidding. These are real. He gets people to buy into it, right? And it's connected to that are inside volcanoes.
The thetans are connected to the hip bone.
Yeah, that's right.
I think it's what
And
it
so then
that was humorous.
they started giving these stress tests. And so he basically started recruiting people into believing this. And then they got a few famous people involved. And then it started being attached to money.
Yeah,
right?
so
And
the
money given
way
to it.
if you back up a little bit, it's only because Mike Rowe has had a crusade against them recently, which I
Right. The bottom line I was saying is that a lot of famous, influential people are a part of it.
Yes. A lot of famous, influential people have backed away from it also lately because the two, they're not corrections, I would just add to it, was pretty early on he owed a large sum of money in back taxes.
Sure.
Document like an email record of him emailing, I want to say his CPA or something, and it says something to the end. Again, don't quote me on any of this. It's what I heard on Mike Rowe's podcast. It's something to the effect of him, L. Ron Hubbard, emailing his partner or some away because he owed. Then it built through, as they were fighting. Because originally the IRS was like, no, we're not granting you nonprofit status. You're an author.
Right.
But long story short, he kept fighting it. Eventually won the nonprofit status, which means he didn't have to pay the taxes. Then he saw the profitability of this organization, how it worked. You got wealthy people of horrible things with women, and they had a couple women locked away, and his exes and some crazy, crazy stuff. Go look at it yourself. I've been listening to it a ton. Mainly, I don't want to say certain. Gosh, he did this to me too, and now they're saying that people are they're distancing themselves from it because
Right.
it's not looking great.
So leading up to what we were talking about is like, how did these thinking people get involved in it in the first place, right? Because you're saying that there are cults throughout religion where very famous people were connected. The Hare Krishnas.
Yeah.
George
yeah.
Harrison was was like involved with the Hare Krishnas.
They
for
were
a bit.
talking about there was a number of cults, kind of 60s, 70s, that were really famous, that mostly had famous rock musicians, like the original kind of classic rock musicians, that were a part of. Lives on a compound with a bunch of people, and like where they are, again, this is not. I can't believe we're talking about half of this stuff. Where they say they faked the moon landing. It's on the recording studio. It's on the lot. And so they have all that stuff, and apparently they did. And again, I'm not saying any of this. I'm saying this is what I heard. And that, he lives there with a group of people, and they still make documents for NASA and random stuff. And it's like, okay.
So what do you say
there's
to
like famous
somebody,
stuff happening.
since we're just on this road? So let's turn it on us.
I would go straight to the definition.
Well, it is easy to see, though,
Josh
how
will look it
people...
up.
Definition. Oh, what's funny is I looked it up. While
That's
we're talking.
awesome.
Perfect.
Good, good.
So a cult is defined it's a noun, a system of religious veneration and devotion directed toward a particular figure or object. A relatively small group of people having religious beliefs or practices regarded by others as strange or sinister. These seem like
Sinister.
these seems like subjective definitions.
Those do sound subjective.
Well, it's
to be honest.
basically then the sinister would be people in general on the outside would say this is. I think there are definitely people who would think that Christianity is sinister, but that is not the universal.
Well, I think cult by
belief.
itself has a sinister connotation.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and there are. I have heard
Brainwashing, terrible
atheists call Christianity a cult.
Sure.
And I'm not saying it's not true. I've always thought of it size-wise, where it's kind of like, I think there's the five. I wouldn't call, and this is the thing.
Yeah, 1 billion people in a cult is a hard thing to argue.
Just because I don't think it's true, I don't think I would call a different religion a. Get why you would say they were. I just don't think I would. Again, it's more personal, but
I have a memory, and I don't know where it comes from, and I don't know if there's any validity to it. So help me with this. My understanding of a cult has always been, it's a religion or a denomination even that way. Yes and no. Because
yeah, but they're wrong, Joe.
because now you're saying Friends denomination. You're saying Christianity as a whole. I'm saying like a more select group of people.
Subset of.
So we're not saying that Baptists don't go to heaven. We're not saying that Catholics don't go to heaven. We're not saying any of those things. We're just saying this is how we do it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of similarities between major religions and cults. Like in terms of like, it's a belief. They're supported by financial giving from individuals.
Well, this is fun. Little side, like, what's your deal? Convince me why you're not in a cult.
I think I would ask them. And then doesn't really work for what you're doing. I'm not trying to undo it. Is I'd ask them, but what portion of that you are making an assumption cult? Or is it because I'm devoted? Is it because I give? Is it because I serve? Is it because I believe Jesus is the only way? So
it's because you're saying, whether you're doing it overtly or not, you are saying that everyone.
We used to talk about thinking people. And whereas atheists would say Christians aren't thinking people, I think it's completely opposite. In terms of like, I think you could be in anything. You could be an atheist and not think about it. You can be a Christian and not think about it. But I think if you think about Christianity, you're going to arrive at good places, and that's been proven. Very smart people who tried to outthink Christianity became Christian. I believe there is evidence that points towards Jesus actually being the Son of God, that he actually rose from the dead. I think science would tell us we don't know where everything came from, which the Bible claims that God solved that. So yeah, I'm making a leap of faith in those areas because I don't have, irrefutable proof, but there's evidence that would point that off, and nobody dragged me into this.
Right.
So nobody made me do this. In fact, I wasn't raised in it. And so for me, I got on a journey and I thought through it, and I thought all the evidence pointed towards Jesus, who in John 14:6 claims that he's the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through him. So
Podcast that we did a few weeks back on the deconstruction. There would be those that would argue that would say you have that belief structure and you think that way because of the things that you were taught, that you're predisposed to thinking that way because of the way that the family that you were born into, the way that you grew up, and the thought processes that you had.
Except for I grew up in a mob crime family, and we didn't think that way at all. So that would be the
man.
difference. Is
Yeah,
and
no.
It's fair.
I will say though
that's-
that you could, and here's why. There's like 8 things to say here. I've always disproved
disprove.
God.
Right.
It's impossible.
It's
so
a
that's what,
fun
that's
conversation.
Alan wants.
Yeah,
it's
so-
a fun
Yeah.
conversation, but you're
Right.
not winning.
take-
That's like if we're having this conversation, somebody, I realize I'm not winning. I'm
Yeah.
answering.
and
not winning.
Thomas Edison. It was it Edison? Newton.
Thomas Wayne.
It might have been
Aquinas.
No, it was either Edison or Newton who said it was basically that if you actually really think about God, you will come to a real thinking person will always come to the right conclusion about it. Basically, he said something about God that was very
God.
a man.
Yeah,
said something about God.
Name might have been Thomas.
Yeah, I was gonna look it up, but I always feel dumb because it takes me so long to look stuff
something
up.
that came to mind. We were talking about like being in a cult. The first thing that came to mind was, well, what if you wanted to leave? Because you were talking about celebrities who want to leave. I think a good discernment between the two is like what happens if I want to leave the church versus if I want to leave a cult.
It's a good point because the one we talked about earlier.
mob.
So if we're gonna
Scientology
start a cult,
there was like people who have gotten out. They talk about like they get hunted down, and it's pretty gnarly.
so when we start our cult, we need to separate ourselves by. Just so you know, you can leave our cult.
Hey, you're free to go.
There you go.
Free to go.
Free to
Our
go.
cult is
Gave us
an
a
open
loophole.
door cult.
Yeah.
Ah,
So
It does make you think, though, like it's easy to see because of things like if the Church of Scientology did use, if that was all predicated on, hey, let's get out of this being money hungry, or
Yeah, for
you know, you can draw the line pretty easily between those things when you consider all of that, how easy
Yeah.
it is to get a 501c3.
There's to me it is that Maleficent. The like.
Thomas
What did they say? It
Maleficent.
was.
Thomas Maleficent.
They meant harm. What was
Sinister.
the word? Sinestro from X-Men.
Insidious.
It's that vibe where I'm like,
Yeah, who act like a cult.
and I would actually
They're-
say like,
that,
yeah,
that Westboro
extremists.
Baptist.
Exactly,
Westboro
yeah.
Baptist acts like a cult.
I was gonna say I would actually say they are slipping
That's a
into
good argument,
to
yeah.
cultishness.
Yeah.
Sure.
The greater segment of Christianity, and I mean this, you could lump a
yeah.
bunch of Baptists, a bunch of evangelicals, a bunch of
Presbyterians,
A few Quakers.
you're right.
The tenets of Christianity.
If you are, and I'm not saying this, it's just biblical. If you really trace the gospel down, it will always make things better. Your goal is to help others, to help those around me. I'm trying not to be selfish. When you kind of put all that out, I'm like, there is nothing sinister. Even if I eventually do get to, hey, I honestly think Jesus is the only way, the truth, and the life. No one apart from, no one finds the Father apart from him. Like, I actually do believe that because he said that. You can say that's horrible because you're excluding a group of people from heaven. And I'm like, first of all, I'm not doing with you saying that, but like the bottom line is we want nothing but good for people. So I believe God does.
Sure.
So that would be, I think, the biggest distinction for me where I go, look, we love people.
Yeah, the hardest, but we have seen, you and I have been a part of especially, where the way to get to that or that being forgotten somewhat.
Yeah, and
And
that's what
seeing
people are
religion
pushing back on.
weaponized.
Or
That's where
anywhere,
people-
and I think that
That's where the
actually-
pushback is. That's why you would say people are like a cult because we're more known for our seeking after celebrity and money and all that stuff
Sure.
than we are for love.
Right.
Yeah.
We're doing a horrible job.
And
at
I
that.
think that truth
That
or
was on my
something, I'm
mind.
like, that's a
They're focusing
big
on
distinction, man.
on Ron Hubbard, the
Yeah.
founder of it,
Yeah.
versus.
Did
know,
you
we
call
focus
him?
on-
Did you say a letter
I think
or
it is a letter.
I was
It's a
wondering that.
I always thought it
Which
was
is
Ron.
his name is L.
Which
Ron
is your
Hubbard.
classic douche way to become an author.
You're right.
I always thought it
You
was
do the
Ron
letter
Hubbard.
on the
Oh,
first
no.
part.
Oh,
no.
well, they're
It's-
never letting me in. So.
It's Lawrence Ronald Hubbard.
Yeah,
Hubbard.
that's right.
Hubbard.
I actually don't. I want to know what the look up the L. I'm so curious.
I wonder
I'm
if
so
everybody
curious.
calls him Larry on the
I feel
inside.
weird.
Larry.
He's just Larry to everybody else.
What's funny is I forgot that he was around very recently. He just he
Oh.
didn't die that long ago,
no.
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
that's kind of crazy.
And this is all coming.
Ooh.
What's his name?
Lafayette Ronald Hubbard.
Oh, I'd go by
Lafayette.
L2.
Why didn't he go Lafayette
Oh,
R.
Lafayette's
Hubbard?
awesome.
Lafayette,
Lafayette
R.
R,
Hubbard.
yeah.
Lafayette R is way
I
better
think
than L.
Lafayette's
Ron.
super cool. Yeah, yeah.
And so
I thought it was wrong.
This all came out of the idea of we were talking about how would you know if somebody was Jesus, right?
Okay.
And then we got down and it's a cult. And so we
Cult
said,
rules,
let's get
yeah,
fair. Let's go through with convince them of that.
Sure.
Other than I could say they could point at certain groups and we'd say, yeah, they're kind of operating like a cult. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
but
Like,
what I thought was fun is kind of where we're headed, which I think now has ramifications for all of us. The deal.
what is the deal?
There's multiple theories. I'll call them theories. There's multiple theories and beliefs that, one, Jesus already came back, that the end times were as far back as Antiochus
So
Epiphanes.
we're in the end times now.
No, so there's
actually
multiple
in the
beliefs.
millennial
So
reign.
one is we're in the millennial reign. We're after. So Antiochus Epiphanes is
Daniel
through.
talks about as well.
Yeah, super short explanation is they came through. They defiled the temple, the desecration of the sacred. They went into the temple. They actually slaughtered. Antiochus Epiphanes slaughtered pigs, which was the unclean animal, and smeared it all over the temple walls. They murdered the priests. They murdered the people. Like they were graphic. They consider that a small.
What's funny is I would disagree. This is fun. I'm just
No,
doing
totally.
this.
Yeah.
I would disagree, and that's defiling the temple. Defiling the temple in God's heart
Is us now.
would be I would
Yeah.
say, and I would even say setting up worshiping someone else. would be
Okay,
kinda
but
I know, just like, I'm
Totally.
just
No,
throwing
no.
that in there. Yeah.
I'm only setting this up.
No, no.
I think he might have been a little upset about killing the priests. That went a little far.
That went a little bit.
And so some people say that was the end times, if you will, that Jesus came back, saved everybody. We kind of forgot about it. So we're living in the post the end times, that we are in tribulation right now.
Yeah.
And there's another belief that it is in the future.
Yeah.
There's a belief that it will never happen also. So it's
Right.
like all of those things, how do you refute? Because here's the deal. I think, and I don't want to bogart this, but there is a good argument that I think come back a second time, especially a lot of his verbiage.
What
so
does
that's
this look
it, yeah.
like?
And
Yeah.
I'm not, again, I don't believe this. I'm just saying. So it's going to be very soon that he comes back. And in my mind, 2000 is a weird goodbye.
Believe it or not, that's pretty much my. And so I was thinking about, well, if a day's 1,000 years and 10,000 years is like, sure,
I mean, it's God.
it might be 1,000.
98%
Might be
Another verse
1,000, might be
says-
1,000.
No.
He said we're in the last days.
Which would mean we're too.
Common here.
So isn't he coming back?
Why isn't he?
And any of that to its elect, I should say.
Like, I don't even know why you'd even wrap your mind around that. Like, is the number 89 trillion? What
Yeah,
do you
exactly.
know what that
It's
number
actually
is?
a ton.
A lot of people go with the 144,000.
144,000.
But that's the
Yeah.
elect. I
That's
would
the elect, yeah, yeah.
Massively be like, what?
And that's
That's the Jewish.
I was going to say that's
believers.
the Jewish believers.
The
Yeah,
Jewish
yeah.
believers in the.
But also, I
times.
do wonder if, in regards to the one day is 1,000 years or whatever it was,
Yeah.
if that also translates to the numbers too. So numbers, we're saying 144,000.
Well, no,
one-
we're not saying that.
No, we are not.
Well,
saying that.
I'm just referencing that, like, if one day is 1,000 years, maybe one person to us could be 1,000 people to him. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I see
Oh,
what
I
you're
never
saying.
thought about
I
that.
see
That's
that,
funny.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That the numbers to God
I
are more
think
arbitrary.
truthfully, we mess up, and I don't mind talking about it and thinking about it, spending a bunch of your time studying it. I think it's fun. If you're in
Fun.
Scripture, have a ball.
Yeah.
It's not going to do us much benefit
Yeah.
to like figure that aspect out.
Well,
I
and
think
it's not going to do as much benefit to think that you can figure it out, especially when talking about Revelation. It's apocalyptic literature.
Which is why I go,
It's
you know
like-
what? Let it be fun. Let it be like, it's almost entertainment when you're like, oh my gosh. Because you do end up, I've studied Revelation and Daniel together at the same time, which was very fun. I heard that Daniel was the key to unlocking Revelation. It really, the symbolisms fit perfectly.
It's kind of funny because some of the prophecies about Jesus were 1-to-1, right? Like it was
Some
like,
of them absolutely were.
and some were like, what? Wait, what?
Totally.
How was that a
Yeah.
prophecy? You
And
know what I mean?
some haven't been fulfilled.
Right.
And so you're like, okay, so there's some interesting things there. And I do think they will always, you're in Scripture, so it's going to bring you closer to God. But I realize, like, this isn't benefiting my life in terms of, the one thing it kind of did is I wanted to see more people saved. I think I became pretty evangelistic when I started thinking about there is going to be an end times. Like I do believe in the actual literal return of Jesus,
Yeah.
which made me and has lasted ever since of like, oh, I don't want to miss opportunities now. I'm not going to stand on a street corner because I don't believe that's as effective as letting the Holy Spirit lead me into the conversations that I need to have. But I'm way more attentive over the last probably 10 years about evangelism in terms of like, man, if I'm at a restaurant and I feel that nudge to talk to my server, I'm not ignoring it because I think it's really fun to see life transformation like that.
Yeah.
What was the second part of his question?
Yeah, I was going to say the second question, the second half of the
part
question
was,
the one
or is his coming back not what we think it means?
very good.
question.
I like that.
Well, you don't know fully what it
That's
means.
good. Yeah,
And I think that's fair. You'd have to be like, and in fact, the fact that everybody debates what that looks like.
Yeah.
There's an entire book series called Left Behind, where
now you've done it.
everybody disappears. So you literally have a scripture, but an entire book series based on this. Like, what happened? And yet, there's a very obvious scripture that says the world will see his return and more. Here we go.
Okay, let's do this just because it's fun.
Yeah.
What is your actual belief? Try and break it down. What you think the second coming is actually going to be like?
What it will look like? What do you think it'll actually look like? So Jesus returns. Did they have to set up? Like, are we setting up whether they're pre-trib, mid-trib, stuff like that, or just the actual when we see when the Jesus portion of the revelation
I think
happens?
it's whatever you think. It's intriguing, and the reason this case has come up for me lately, it's funny that we're even talking about it, is because I have been not deconstructing by any means, but like re-looking at a lot of my beliefs in terms of
what are they built upon?
Yeah, where did they come from?
Where did they come from? I've been
Because
doing that for years.
Sometimes I feel them get shaken. And I go, oh, wait a minute, what was that? Like it doesn't feel like it was built on a rock if something hits me and moves me.
Innovating.
I'm intrigued as to what exactly is it rooted in. And I have found that some of them, not all of them by any means, in fact, I think it's a minority of things, were actually built on something I heard a pastor say at some point.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It's very biblical.
Sure.
He wasn't lying to
Right.
me. It's just that I took his idea, ran with it, took something like certain atonement theologies, like penal substitutionary atonement, which I've just always thought because I was told that, didn't know there's 6 other pretty legit ones that I went, oh, wait, this is just deeper than I thought. And so learning those and then realizing, okay, what is this really built on? What is it rooted in? And end times is a big piece of that.
And I think when you do that, I think when you literally make your faith your own, based on your own study and your own your own revelation of truth, then it becomes more real and therefore more solid.
Yeah,
It's
and I'm
something you
trying
can
very desperately to, which I don't think I did as well when I was younger, is I'm trying to make sure I'm not basing the things on what I think about God. I'm trying to base them solely on Scripture. A little bit of Reformed-esque theology, like it kind of is, because I'm like, I have opinions on God, but I need to make sure that it's very easily backed up by Scripture. I don't want to have to weave things in and take 20 minutes to explain why.
Right.
I want to be able to point to like 3 Scriptures and be like, you close to this. Like 98% of Christianity is very much what it says is what it is.
And that's the kind of part when you're doing it based on Scripture and you take it as a whole. What we end up doing is saying like, there's some really good arguments for and against this one, so I'm going to
Absolutely.
hold this pretty loosely.
Absolutely,
Because
yeah.
I'm like, especially when we get to Revelation, I'm always like, yeah, I mean, I've heard some really good takes.
Yeah. Oh,
on
my
multiple
gosh,
different
yeah.
versions where if somebody came to me like, what you just said about Revelation, they'd be like, and I think it's this. I'm like, oh, great point.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, I still don't know, but
Do you
I'm
have any
like,
examples?
no. He says any end times theology that makes you afraid is bad end times theology.
That's good.
Because
like
you're
that.
already saved.
I like
Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, so there should not be this. You should not be fearing the end times unless you're fearing for others, but not for
Sure.
yourself. Like, you know,
Or, and I do think it's funny because my example of that is there was a guy who came to one of the churches I was working at who was a Revelation expert, end times guy.
Sounds like a fun guy.
Actually, what's funny, it was one of the best sermons I've ever heard preached. And everyone hated him and everyone ignored him. And I remember later,
mentioned this.
I was like, guys, that guy was money. And they're like, he was so boring. And I was like, oh, if we're basing this poor guy's theology on his entertainment
But he was
factor,
brilliant.
it sucked because I actually thought, like, dude, nobody listened to him. I was enamored because it was just such an interesting concept. He was actually a terrible communicator, sadly. But he laid something down.
I just picture paper shuffling in the middle of him speaking.
and
Kind of. But he laid down end times theology where I was just like, oh my gosh, he's figured it out. that same week, and I'll never forget it because we had our staff meeting. I think I was trying to defend this guy, and then I was like, I don't know this guy. Why am I defending him? And then I want to say it was the next day or even Thursday, I was studying it because I was so intrigued by it, and I heard another guy who was a doctor, who was brilliant, a theologian, had like the opposite opinion, and I went, oh, that's good. I remember being like, oh, I'm sold out. This guy has proved it. The other guy used basically the same scriptures and and I was like, gosh, dang it, I got nothing.
That one's new to me. The amillennial, I had not heard that until earlier this year.
People in college took such hard stances. Even then, I was like, I mean, what?
Right.
Like these are the weird hills that die onto me. Yeah. I remember, and it goes like this.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that one other verse. It just was funny to me. When I was at a very conservative Baptist church, and the Bible says that an elder must be a husband of one wife. And I was like, yep, can't be divorced. Looked at the passage, and historically, the issue was polygamy.
I was going to say.
Not divorce. But the one church took that, and I had no other way to think other than
a monogamous elder.
That's all it could be. It could only be, what else would it possibly be? Because I'm interpreting through American culture.
Yeah.
Right? And so I see this in a very innocuous verse that I'm getting this wrong. And now we're going to look at apocalyptic literature, and be like, I nailed this. I'm like, this argument's on both sides.
You and both groups, especially because there are scholars on both sides. It's not like it's morons arguing.
Brilliant people on both sides.
Brilliant guys. I mean, you literally have Fee, the guy who wrote How to Read the Bible for All It's Worth. He's a egalitarian.
100%. And the guy he wrote it with.
You have John MacArthur, who is a brilliant theologian. Who is a complementarian. And so you're like,
to these guys, what does it look like when Jesus returns?
What do you think? And however you want to paint that
I have
picture.
Mine. I've got it nailed, but I don't want to ruin it for you guys.
I can't wait to hear.
We need to hear Joe's.
Okay, now what do you guys, in any version of it?
Well, honestly, the thing that I don't really struggle with it. it's like, I don't struggle. It's just juggle with it, if that makes sense. And it's
I juggle.
Yeah.
With the fellas. You got to juggle with it.
Is in Zechariah when it says he, very plainly says how and where Jesus will return on the Mount of Olives. And it's funny because this was at the time I was reading into this, and I was working at the travel agency because we're doing tours to Israel.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I have pictures of it. I have like GoPro videos of it. And I'm like, why not?
Yeah.
Why not there? It's right here. We've prepared the place,
Sure.
It's like we have stones around it.
Sure.
And I'm like,
so this sounds weird, but
flash
like,
of light.
Which, by the way, some people believe there's more than one return. It's another option.
Yes. Specifically, and this is goofy for us to do, but I think it's kind of fun. What do you think it's going to really happen?
I think the flash of light, and I think everyone who is saved will know.
Oh, interesting.
And I do think, obviously, the Holy Spirit will be very present, probably the most ever, And I think that's, and not ominous in a scary way. It's just like I can't even fathom it.
Yeah.
So much that there's the potential of the renewal of everyone's spirit. I haven't really visualized it much.
Okay.
But I think I picture is the flash of light, and then I'm like, flash of light. It's like a Michael Jackson concert entrance, and he pops onto the stage, and the stage is the Mount of Olives. And I just think that's the part that I'm like, ooh, that feels so real. Yeah. And
what if because we talk about him returning as like a warrior, like a victorious warrior.
Right.
It's a flashbang grenade.
He just a long, rappelling down.
Yeah, he repels in and he bites that, and he throws a flashbang, and it's like, what is going on?
I think we should be asking ourselves, what kind of pants is he wearing that we can see his thigh tattoo?
Yeah, right. No, that's good.
Is he coming back in shorts?
It wouldn't be pants.
That's why
he's coming back in shorts.
Loincloth.
That's why I really think it's the robe, where it's just like that robe. Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe's
I imagine there's
he holds his robe down. He holds his robe down.
I was like, oh, you saw the tattoo.
As the gust of the wind comes up from the vent.
If you were wondering, this is when it got sacrilegious.
The Four Horsemen were the openers. They're the openers for the concert.
Oh, dude, the Four Horsemen are, I'm confident that it's Alec. It was David who, it says, saw the angel of the Lord that was killing. It was the murder, like it was the murder angel. and it wasn't a demon. It was the murder angel that God
murder
used.
angel.
Was standing there, and he saw him, and I was like, oh God, he saw the murder angel. Like, that's terrifying. Maybe kill angel. Maybe it's not murder. Maybe it's kill. But I'm like,
It would have to be killed.
It would be
yeah,
kill.
it would be kill.
murder. Yeah.
Justice
This
angel.
doesn't sound as cool.
No, but right. But I just thought, like, gosh, that's a
Murder angel sounds like a guy from Tennessee wrote the Bible. And then he saw the murder angel.
yeah. I have no problem.
No, it sounds like a poor
The murder-
translation of
the
a
murder
character in
angel.
an anime show.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
That is what it's like in Death Note.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
it's
then
some
the
terrible
murder angel
translation.
appears.
Okay, Floyd, what
Floyd,
do you
we
got?
got-
What do you think?
Honestly, it's not something that I've spent a ton of time thinking about because it doesn't impact how I live my life much.
You just live sinfully no matter what.
And just live a sinful life regardless. But I take it all very literally, like Josh said. Split the eastern skies. Every eye will see him on that day. I think that it's going to be a visual experience. I've thought about many up to meet with him in the air. I don't know. Maybe it's trivial, maybe it's childish, but I kind of have the idea of graves popping open and
Global
things of that
event.
nature. Yeah, I mean that's what
How
happened
long?
when Jesus when
do you mean?
Jesus was resurrected.
How long would it take? That's what I'm curious about.
Well, and then you consider the body deteriorates, right?
Yeah.
So this
Is it
is how,
renewed?
like I say, I haven't spent much time thinking about it, but these are quick thoughts. Like one who is not being caught up with the Lord has a reconstructed knee from a cadaver of somebody that is.
Ooh.
Does that ligament fly
The
out?
knee.
That's actually funny you say it.
Oh.
I do have 2 cadaver parts
Right.
in me. That's actually.
I just
that's
anticipate
funny.
you going.
But it's
I would
but it's
not.
the spirit.
Yeah.
It's not the, it's
would
not,
Thank you, Floyd.
It's not the vessel.
No,
it's the spirit.
the vessel wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
It's because Jesus' spirit
still a
body
fun
was still a
thought.
body. So if they're
Right.
rising from the graves, it's
So I
gonna
do
be
think this is
spirit.
fun though
Spirit
because
rising.
It'll have mass to it. It'll have matter, but it'll still be like
But
Jesus.
what would that look like?
You
Like,
think
that's
it will
just
have
amazing.
matter? You
I
it'll
think
have
because just
mass?
like when he resurrected, and even though he was, was able to pass through walls, even though he
that's a
could
good
eat
point.
and stuff, because I think our spirit body
So they're
is
like
has
translucent.
mass.
Well, and
Don't
we are
touch-
Adam. We're the flesh of Adam. We're the man of Adam. But our spiritual
You know
being
what?
is like the glorified body.
That'd
of
be good
Jesus.
for
It's
like all
different.
the Christian cave spelunkers. Because if it just happened and they're in a cave,
Yeah.
they gotta pass through. the
It's
cave.
funny. I think
like
more
that.
along the lines of people who are chilling in Abraham's bosom, and they're just like, "Oh, what's going on?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, where am I going?" They're being pulled down back into the
Yeah.
earth. And be like, "What is happening?"
You just when you said Abraham's bosom, I was like, oh, I forgot about the 75 different random theologies that
Yeah.
I kind of that I wonder about that I don't hold, but I'm
Yeah.
like I wonder about.
Yeah.
That it's so difficult to even.
They're in a resting. If they're in a
grasp any of
resting,
this.
if you don't believe they're enter rise out. So, but that's why I'm like, is that exactly what's going to happen
Yeah,
when you
because
hear that stuff?
there's new heaven and new earth, and then the new bodies.
Yeah.
But that's difficult, man.
It's
New
hard.
heaven and new earth.
So you guys want to know how it's
Yeah.
going to go down?
Yeah, let's hear it. What do you got?
This is I've studied this for a long time, and I'm convinced of 2 things. He will be Filipino, and he'll be on an island. That's what I'm convinced.
Thank
of.
you for joining us on You Won't Hate It.
No, he's not ending.
Yeah, that's a tough one. How do you know, Bruno, to answer your question, which I honestly really like, I don't think we can know
Right.
whether he is saying, like we said a minute ago, there is a very strong belief that either Jesus has come back or is coming, like in a different way than we think. And I think it is worth thinking through that what if his presence is not in the way that we think it is? I happen to, like Floyd, kind of take it fairly literally, where I do think when he returns, I think there will be literal trumpets. That's actually one thing. I don't know if you follow
yeah.
this at all.
Oh, when I heard the
On
sound
YouTube?
on the War of the Worlds for the first time, I'm like, this is what I think. I think they're. Yeah, I've heard them.
And I'm not like, those are real.
It'll be a shofar.
but
I probably will be a shofar. But it's like, it is interesting when you see those videos. It reminds me of the first time I saw Blair Witch Project, where you're like, oh, this is just done well in terms of it created a visceral response for me where I heard the horn, and I was like, ooh, worldwide horn that blows, that everyone just hears. Like, that's a crazy thought. And I was like, well, that's fun.
I think it would be. I think a lot of it's gonna be similar. By the way, Floyd, you never cease to amaze me with pronunciations. I've never heard anyone call it a shofar before. That's It's a shofar. So I know it sounds funny.
Joe?
No.
I'm just always
In
it's funny.
Aladdin, his name is Jafar.
Oh, you know what's funny? I was going to go Aladdin. I was like, what was it?
This is it's a
sho-
very
I have
consistent
so many-
thing
A
with pronunciation.
shofar.
It's a shofar. How far?
It's
How
a
far can you
shofar.
show
Show-
it?
yeah,
Shofar. It's how far you can show
It's
it.
like Reptar.
Shofar.
Yeah.
It's-
Yeah, that is funny. It's shofar. It didn't sound that weird to me, oddly.
I
It
know.
doesn't sound weird.
I know.
Shofar.
You know what sounds
it's
weird?
Not fun. It's not
Joe.
There's nothing.
Joe sounds
and there's
weird.
nothing wrong with it, but it's just like it started all the way with the pronunciations of names of people in church.
yeah.
And then why should I think the Bible should be free from?
You never
Just
know.
like just an
You
80s.
never know.
That'd be great.
He does look like Ted Nugent. Oh my gosh!
That was one of, I think, when I first heard Revelation broken down in modern terms as to what the things could be. Like the locusts, the way it describes them could be.
Locust with the face of man.
Could be the Apache helicopter type thing. Like
and
Earth's
the
issues.
helicopters from Dune
Yeah.
look like locusts.
Which,
Part 1 or 2 until Part 3 is funded.
wait,
know
there's
there's a
no
part
part 3.
I thought there was 3 parts.
I know there's 2. I didn't know about a third part.
I didn't know
well,
about that.
then
I
I'll
think
watch
there's
Part
2.
1 now because
Just
Part
so
2
you
is
know,
coming to the
is it
theaters.
good?
Part 1 was there was no news that it was a 2-parter, and there was no news that they had funded the second one. So you watch that movie. When it ended, I was so angry.
Everyone.
And I
That's
remember
what made me not
Googling,
watch it.
and they're like, "Yeah, we don't know if they're gonna make a second one." I'm like, "What?"
Joe got so angry
Was it good?
that it transferred onto me.
Cinematically, one of the most beautiful movies I've ever seen.
Ooh.
And I mean that. Like, it was
Story-wise?
breathtaking.
Made zero sense if there's not another part. You like ended like in the middle, like
Oh, no.
nothing has happened.
The movie doesn't end. The movie literally, he's like, okay, are we ready to go to credits?
Wrap up.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
Like now the next part of the adventure. None
Yeah.
of that. It was just like in the middle of like practically in the middle of dialogue. You're like, wait, what happened?
Yeah. Pretty rough. But I will say, yeah, I think you hear those things, and I do. I have always been intrigued by how rough it will get for Christians, how bad it can get, how literal we take it. I think the difficult part, and it doesn't frustrate me, and the frustration I have is because of that, it causes people who are slightly unstable, if we're honest, to say every single thing is the
Financially.
end times, is the Antichrist, is the mark of the beast, and I'm like, here's the deal. You're probably going to be right about one of them at some point.
Yeah.
At some
but
point,
it's every
they have to be.
single
I've
one.
had to answer so many of those questions. When Obama got elected president, I
It
had
might
so
have
many people
been
ask
my
me,
age.
Mark of the beast.
It
Who
might
are
have
they?
been my
Is he the-
age,
is he
but,
the
but
Antichrist?
Obama was from then on.
Yeah.
It was Obama got elected. Then it's been every governor that somebody didn't like. It's
Yeah.
been every senator. It's been every president's been called. And I'm like, guys, I'm not saying don't stay on the lookout because the Bible tells us to kind of be on the lookout, but
watchful.
also settle the frick down.
Because that's
Like,
the thing.
Yeah.
Now, anybody you don't like is the Antichrist.
that's the key.
I
There's
could see
another-
Especially
Glo-
when the
what's
Antichrist
interesting-
is super liked and
100%.
loved. Like,
But I think you made a good point. Sorry, it was about like you're not leading. There's no fear,
right.
when you think about
Yeah.
it. So I think all these questions come up because people are so fearful.
yeah.
And I'm like, why are you fearful if you're saved?
Yeah.
And
But
like
I
you
do.
said-
But again, sorry, Floyd.
Go.
That's that. And I don't think people recognize this, but that's dependent on the theology that you, or the doctrinal theology that
okay.
you hold. If we're living through the tribulation, it's going to be super rough, and it's
And the thief in the night
Post-apocalyptic.
thing, I didn't want to go. I was afraid to go to sleep because those who are
Absolutely.
asleep, I was so fearful. I think also there's enough ambiguity
Yeah.
in the end times, the apocryphal writings, or excuse me, the that apocalyptic writings. Thank you.
Apocryphal actually works too.
apocryphal does
Apocryphal
kind
kind of work.
apocryphal.
Okay. Like this guy in the Philippines now, and like the dozens of others in between, to be able to say, "Hey, look, I'm Jesus."
Yeah.
And people don't, because it is hard to study. There is a lot of allegory. There is a lot of
It's hard to fathom.
and it gives. There's enough ambiguity that it gives them a platform to stand
And people have they've taught.
Hey, were you holding on to it for a
I was.
while?
I was trying to
thought
figure out
so.
how to make
I
it
thought
work.
So I really liked it. So let's put a little bow on this real quick because we could talk about end times for the next 40 episodes.
Yeah.
How is a Christian supposed to live today with the thought of end times, apocalypse, antichrists, false prophets? How is a Christian supposed to live today with all of that looming on us at all times.
So
we want to stress people out before we leave.
So here's why I haven't really thought much about those things, and I don't let it impact the way I live my life. Statistically speaking, to this point, everyone who has ever lived and died.
He just leans in, just
Joe and I
ready.
both were like,
He's ready.
ooh, I got something to say about that.
No, and it's fine. I'm just saying the data will tell us that according to all of the people that have lived and died, and the millions of them who thought they would see the rapture, right?
Sure, no.
So my point is,
yeah.
we could one of us could fall over dead right now.
Hopefully,
Because I was going to say, hopefully it's Joe.
I was going to say, I thought he was going to choose somebody.
I picked
was like,
Joe.
wow.
I'm so mean to Joe because he's close. And I just think that the reality of death is so minds, at least.
Yeah.
That the reality is that we should live our life with an urgency anyway.
I like the urgency
Okay,
part, but I want to address the
you're
statistics real
saying
fast.
you're saying that we should live with an urgency.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I would have said, I'd say the rapture is probably more like roulette, where you can't calculate the statistics, because it's just as likely that I die as
Sure.
that he comes back today.
No, and I would not. And again, we could probably post this to Reddit on they did the math, but
I
than
was
they
gonna
were.
say,
And we'll be more likely tomorrow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so which is
It's kind of like roulette. It really is, like, because it can happen. There's no way to predict when it can happen.
right.
So you're
The
just like,
statistics remain the same, sort of. It's very odd.
it happens. But anyways, it was just interesting. Josh, thoughts about how you should live? How you should stop living? What you're doing right now?
yeah.
nice.
I think the idea of, I don't know, it keeps coming back, keep it simple. Like, I understand the urgency part. I think the urgency in regards to loving others, sharing the message, spreading the gospel, to just, as we talk about living our life to the fullest in the abundant life. But also, I think the idea of being watchful, being mindful with everything we have in the society we have now, with all the stimuli and available information. Clearly, there's a lot of false information, false prophets. There's false science. We're just talking mindful and watchful, but also enjoy your life, live it abundantly, and seek the Lord in everything you do. It really isn't. Yeah, I can't really. It's as simple as I can put it.
What's it mean to you to live mindful?
Anything I'm consuming.
Okay. Oh, good.
So
yeah,
that's
like
what I mean. Yeah. So the people I surround myself with.
Yeah.
And being mindful also, like, if I never read the Bible ever again, that's not necessarily being mindful.
Yeah.
Spiritually, it isn't.
What about in Scripture? How, like the virgins are watchful with the lamp oil, and
Sure.
it gives it there is a sense of urgency.
There is,
like,
yeah.
What is the dip? Is it? Are we supposed to live different? I guess is what I'm asking. Is there a separate?
Totally.
Should we shift differently into a mindset, or should we personally be
I think
like,
we're called to that every day, regardless
Okay.
if your mindset is focused on the end times or not.
Okay.
And in regards to when it happens, I still think back to been way more than that now. Yeah. And I think, if we are looking at the numbers, it would make sense that it could happen today or tomorrow. Cool.
I think the end times are more of a message to unbelievers, and so I think it's a good. It's Jesus is coming. I think for the believers, I think it's a message to care about unbelievers. I think it's that simple. So I think if you're reading end times, you're really talking about, like, if you're reading it, the people you're concerned for are those who don't believe. That's who you're concerned for.
Yeah. Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's a message to them. So when Christians get caught up, and I'm like, it's not really your message. And I think in one sense, like the ultimate around you, until it goes back to Jesus loving God and loving people. Yeah. So I think it's a pretty simple message for us. And part of Christians, and why it's a good message for Christians in the sense of, is we've become very insulated. We focus on church. We focus on each other, you know, and I think this gets you back to more of a global mindset. Anyway.
I like it.
For me, it all boils down to do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly. Because I just feel like that's all encompassing. I mean, God says that's what He wants from us. That's what He wants us to do and be. And so with that, I go, yeah, if he comes back tomorrow and I'm doing that and I'm walking that way and I'm loving that way, then I think it will be pleasing to him.
Well done, my good and faithful
yeah,
servant.
and I'll get to hear that. And I am intrigued by the sense of urgency concept. I am, and I'll probably spend some time looking into that because I'm like, yeah, what is there? Is there a way that I could live my life more urgently to glorify God, or is God like, dude, you're killing it?
Like I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm
and
not,
walk by the Spirit.
I'm
for
not
sure.
starting a talk
yeah.
show or going to stand on a corner.
Well,
with,
you kind
with,
of are starting a talk,
or stand on a corner. Yeah, okay, never mind. But or stand on a corner, you know, picketing and with posters and stuff, saying this. As I think this is actually more effective. The interpersonal communication with the people. If it does, then I guess it happens.
Do you really feel like you're not killing it?
Okay, so the problem is personality-wise, absolutely not. I feel like I feel confident, but every project I've ever made in my life, the best woodworking project I've ever made could have been better. And that's true. That's how I feel with
There's
every.
always
That's how
work
your
to be
client
done.
also felt.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
That's how I feel with like every part of my life. And there's some where I'm like, okay, I genuinely. Ashley and I just joked about this. I don't think that I could have found a better spouse, and that's genuine. We both believe, which is funny because it's not super romantic for people, but we both believe that we could have married thousands of other people. Like, I don't believe that there is the one person you have to marry, because if that's the case, if somebody messed up, then nobody marries the right person after that.
Right.
And so we've always said like that. But I go like, I genuinely feel like God created her for me because of how complimentary. Like,
and the other
it's
1,000 women he
fantastic.
created for you. Very Mormon of you.
Yes. But past that, I'm like,
The one bride.
I
The
could
one wife.
always be a better husband. I could always be a better father. I could always improve things. I could always work harder. I could always, like, that's the tough part for me. Where should I feel confident? Should I feel better?
Well, it's like what Paul said, right? Always content, never satisfied. It depends on what curl up into a ball under a desk somewhere.
Right. Yeah, I haven't curled up yet, but there are.
He's got the
moments.
desk.
Yeah. I honestly
He's
have
building it. So it's gonna be a while.
exactly.
Yeah.
I've been surprised that there are. I have felt more angst lately than any time in my life, and times where I've never felt it, because it's always driven me to more in the past, and probably within the last 2 years I have felt these little tinges of retreat, which is shocking to me, and that actually worries me, because I'm like, I've never had.
Is it retreat or is it like simplifying?
No, sadly, it's retreat. That's the hard part.
That's honest.
I'm not picking on you, Floyd, by any means. I really say that. But Paul says, I've learned a secret of being content in every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or living in want. I think a lot of times in the drive to teach men it's okay to be men, this is the phrase I hear a lot of time, that content but not satisfied. And that's fine. I don't even think there's anything wrong with that type of thinking. I think that's fine. But I do think that that when you find contentment, no longer having to do anything, it's about what you want to do after that point.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think
It truly is the "it is finished" concept. Like,
Yeah.
it's done. Now what?
now
Yeah,
what are
it's
you gonna
contentment.
do?
It's not complacency.
Yeah, so it's like, what are you going to do now? That's
good.
And
Contentment, not complacency, is very
yeah,
good.
and so it's kind of like that dynamic. It's interesting because I think for me, I feel like I couldn't be doing anything more than God wants me to do, but there's more that I want to do. So it's kind of like, it's not like God's like, I'm not killing it. So it's not like it's not his determination about me. It's what I want to do. And so that's where, when I think
That's
about his
good. I
determination
think
about me-
I think those are still cloudy for me at times. So like the personal stuff, I know full well God's like, dude, I've blessed you so much.
Yeah.
If you want, not mad or for or against any of that, that's on you. There's stuff where I'm constantly like, dude, I don't know scripture well enough. Like,
It's
and
interesting. You've dedicated your life to teaching people the Bible.
yeah. And that's why I always laugh, because I'm like,
You're the monk in the Buddhist society.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In this arena, we're the monks.
but it
Do you mean,
is
like,
the
we're-
weird, like,
I don't.
I have felt, which I think is actually from God, I have felt an urge to know more Scripture, to study it, to know it deeper, to know Him deeper, not in a guilty way.
Yeah.
It's so I'll feel that like urge, and I get excited. Like I have been. It's goofy, but I feel like I remember when I used to be like this, where it's fun for me. I bought a new study Bible just because I'm like, it might say something new, which it doesn't, by the way. It's all stuff I know, which is hysterical. And I'm like, I wasted $35. But so I'm combing over this, and I'm reading it more, and it's fun. It's like I use it like it's entertaining, and I'm like, that is from God. And then I get I get it mixed up in my mind sometimes, where I go, yeah, like. I don't know as much as that guy. Like I listen to brilliant people online lately because I'm doing the studying.
He watches the Jesus Strand.
Yeah,
on loop.
I watch it just on
loop.
loop. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, that science guy knows more Bible than anybody on that show.
Definitely.
And so, but it's weird because then it gets cloudy of like, better know more Scripture. It's more
It
like
would even make him more proud if you did.
it wouldn't make him more proud at all. There is a
Scripture.
sense though where it's like, if I know more, I can do more.
So it's healthy.
I think it is.
I don't.
I think sometimes I
think
make
it
it
is.
unhealthy.
I think
don't
this
think it's
guy.
unhealthy at
I
all.
think
I
it's.
mean, I don't know.
I
Is
think-
it? No. What
I
do you
don't.
think?
I think the healthy is that you have an urge and you do. That's killing it. I think it's the
Oh, okay.
feeling led
Okay,
to
yeah.
do something and do it because
doing it.
because that is how I mean, God's better than me. It's how we defined somebody killing. Man, they're doing such a great job. It's not because they've accomplished a lot. It's because they felt a leading from the Lord and they said yes.
Yeah.
And so they do it. We're like, man,
I'm
that
worried.
person's
I'm
epic.
worried that I mix up faith and works pretty often.
Well,
Like,
and I think, and
you know,
to
I do.
speak back to Joe's thing, and I think this is maybe what you're feeling, to speak back to what Joe said, I think the concept of content but never satisfied comes from Paul said in Philippians, right? Not as though I have already attained, but I continue to pray. And it's not word for word, but I think that the concept is right. I think that we should be, once we become a Christian, right? And 2 Corinthians 5:17, behold, all things are new. We're new. We're enough. It is finished.
Yeah.
But now, like James said, like, is there more to do? It was the whole concept. It's the way that our denomination was formed. Our denomination was formed based upon people saying, okay, we're good, we have salvation, but now shouldn't we do something with it?
That's cool.
And I think that those two things go together. And I think as long as it's healthy and it's not driving it for you, but he's never disappointed in you. And I think as long as you're looking at it in that way, man, I think it can be good. I think
Yeah,
it can drive
it's
you to more.
weird. And even in that distinction, he's disappointed for you. And I don't feel like this, so I'm not saying me. I'm more saying like that. Just
It's the fact he's disappointed.
It's the first time I've heard that where it's like, oh yeah, but I don't want to make him disappointed even if it's for me.
Yeah.
Like so it's
Which
like
again is killing it.
Well, and
yeah, but like what are those things that disappoint? And it's like that's where I
But
think
just
we
having
can get
that-
screwed up.
I think the tension, it makes concept. It's like
Yeah.
the abundant life spiritually is outside of works. It is. Faith without works is dead. But I think if, to simplify it, it's this working your faith within you will then manifest in ways that in what you do in your life. And then inadvertently also that will bring more abundance in whatever God has for you. I think
Yeah.
God, there's nothing ending. It's not like, okay, you've achieved your final level, like this is all I have for you. He's never ending.
Very Scientology of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you have it's $100,000 for the
final
next
level.
step. But I think I think that's why there's that tension, is we're
Yeah.
constantly saying there's this abundance,
Yeah.
but there can be that mix-up of, but I got to do these things to experience that, to
Yeah, it's also for me. It's constantly the misinterpretation of abundance, which I feel like I've got a pretty healthy view on abundance. I see the misinterpretation.
But that's
of
what I'm saying.
abundance
Is
so often.
there
Yeah,
could
where
be that
I'm like,
misinterpretation there.
Yeah.
I wasn't saying there was. I'm saying that it makes sense that
gosh.
tension
Oh,
can
yeah,
be there.
Yeah. no.
To do what God is asking us to do. And I think that's the value we put on everyone. I think we get that from God. That when they're just like, their heart has been moved and they act upon it. I go, that's killing it. I don't know I've said forever, I'd love to hear about a guy who took the talents and lost them. Did it like the other guy did. Put it down with the bankers, put the money in with the bankers. Didn't earn anything. Like it didn't go well. And I just feel like I would say, like, well done. Like you took what I gave you and you applied it and it didn't turn out great. What are you going to do with this?
So wait, this is interesting because did you just turn that story around though?
A little bit.
Because didn't get the good job, my good and faithful servant, right?
No, they did. They got to take what's the guy who doubled it. Each guy doubled it. He was given more. So 10, 5, 1, doubled, poured it in the sand, put it in the sand because he was afraid. He didn't do anything.
So
he
was
took from the one and gave it to the one that had
at the
done
end,
the
the guy who
most.
did nothing. So the guy who did nothing was the guy who was chastised for it because he was afraid and he buried it in the sand and didn't want to lose it.
Well, he
So
did
it was-
something. He just didn't do what he was called to do.
He just acted out of fear and didn't do it.
So there was 4 guys. Am I wrong?
3.
There was 3.
3.
One guy.
Got 10, doubled it.
It was the first 2 he's good with,
Yep.
and the
thought it
third
was
one he
only
wasn't.
one.
No,
I
he's-
remember there only
he's-
being one,
no,
too.
he was-
That's
no,
why
he's-
I'm like,
he was
I'm
good
getting
with
the
both. He
story
was good with
messed
the
up.
first 2. Come and show him wherever he was supposed to be thrown at the time, and it was just that it was the lack of act. That was it. And so I think God values this. Like, I think we've made that story about result.
Sure.
But what would-
leaves out that like I want to be there because I'm like, what about the guy who tried hard and put it in the bank and the
Control their actions they did.
yeah.
So he can't measure their results. He can only,
Right.
he can only measure their actions.
Yeah.
So when you're saying I felt this lead to go, is that?
Yeah.
Like you could, by the way, could study all the scripture and not learn any more than you know now.
Totally.
So
Yeah.
it can't be
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You know, so that's why I'm like,
So the issue is the guy that feels that urge and doesn't do anything with it.
that to me is the not killing
I
it.
like it.
I think that's the not killing it.
Yeah, I think that's accurate for sure.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Would you rather?
Yeah, what we don't. I don't think
Did
we
we
have
have
any
new ones?
I don't think we have any fun new ones.
What was the one you read and ready got $100,000 and do something with it?
Oh yeah, if somebody, this is actually very humorous. If somebody walked up to you and gave you $100,000 and said, "You know what to do," what is it that you're doing? Except it's like
It's a personality
you know
test
what to
for
do.
sure.
I'm buying that Rivian you showed me.
I think it's more than
I
100.
feel-
In fact, I'm positive it's more than $100,000.
Yeah. I feel like it's someone from Scientology just gave it to me.
Oh.
Like they want me to invest it. Yeah. So I'd be like, give it
Oh,
back.
you think Scientology wants you to invest it?
So I'd be like, no, thank
Oh,
you.
I was sure this
You're
is
a
hit.
no thank you on the
You're a hit.
$100,000.
I'm telling you what I'm not doing. I'm not burying it in the sand.
That's it.
Right?
I mean, realistically, you'd invest it. You'd save it away and invest it, and then
Yeah.
have some at your disposable to have fun with.
Would you invest it in Bitwise?
How many cans of worms are we opening?
That
on
was
this
the
podcast?
response I
Really?
wanted from shut down. That they were like a hope and pride of Fresno, and then they
That he has found contentment
they
with.
shut
Clearly.
down. It's so good.
What are you doing, Ryan? You know what to do.
I know what he's doing.
I think I would bust up laughing.
He's buying wood. I would just think you'd buy a bunch
Yeah,
of wood.
want a bunch of walnut. I like it's funny. I don't know. I think I'd be like, wait. What are you talking about? What do you mean I know what to do? You have the wrong person. I think it'd be
Okay.
just so awkward because I'm like,
I'd sit there and go, I don't know what to do.
I really don't.
My problem is I would already walked away.
Oh.
What?
Sir?
Nope.
It'd
nope.
be a great prank,
You handed it
but
to
you're
me.
gone so fast they can't even say it was a prank.
Nope.
You're like,
He's
did
just-
we just lose our money?
You
I
just-
think that you know what to do is you give it back. I really do. Like, no.
I think you're an idiot.
You and I are different
That's the
people.
dumbest
You
thing.
and I are different people.
I'm buying a
I don't trust it.
motorcycle.
There's nothing
funny.
free in this life.
He's
There-
like, you know
Josh
what to do.
is right.
There's
I
nothing
am-
free.
It's worrisome as to what strings would be attached to that.
Again, nope. Deal with that later.
Don't even care.
No.
Yeah, you're
walking.
Dealing with that later.
Sir, but there's stipulations.
Whatever I want with this $100,000, that's what I'm going to
It
do.
is this is one of our favorite icebreaker questions. Is like you get so $100,000's a good number because it's not like 5 million.
no.
It's not life-changing
It's usually
money.
paying
Yeah.
debt.
life-changing
Usually
for
paying
me.
off any debt in that scenario.
Yeah,
Like,
$100,000 can be life changing, but it's not quit your job money. It's
Right.
not.
No,
yeah,
that's not.
You're going to work tomorrow.
Why would I
Yeah.
want to
You're
quit
not
my job?
retiring.
100%.
You're
Why would I
taking
think
you're
life changing? My brain would go to, I'm going to quit my job.
Well, if somebody gave me $50 million job,
But even like your jobs, woodworking, your
oh no,
blacksmithing,
no, I'm
your YouTube.
still. That's the fun part. I'm
ministry.
still doing all that.
Okay.
It's it's funny because I'm like 50 million. My thought immediately is like, okay, awesome. We are going to remodel the heck out of this church. This church is going to look
That's
way
what
different.
my mind would go to. Is
It's
like,
gonna be freaking
Like it's
insane.
going to be 2 miles north.
I wonder. I've actually thought
I'm doing a
if we want to move.
I'm
the
doing a
building.
dance competition from my churches to see who gets my tithe. But it's going to be like dancing and singing. Like I need to see like
I like just dancing.
I need like a legit
I would
legit
like that
performance.
so much just because it would make pastors look like idiots.
It'd be amazing. And no using your youth pastor or your worship pastor. The lead pastor is
Yeah.
dancing and singing for this. And by the way, the catch line is maybe none of you get it.
Yeah.
If nobody's good enough.
It would be funny because there'd be a lot of pastors that were like,
They
I'm not.
fly
gonna-
from across the country
no,
to do
there'd be a
this.
lot that wouldn't do it.
Oh,
Heck yeah.
Oh yeah, I'd
For
do it.
50 mil? I'm going to give it a shot.
I just want to see, like, I want
I'd
to see, and
smoke
I'm like,
you.
you runs.
Wait, do
I
you give them
would-
the tracks, or they just
No,
you choose any song?
they're picking any song they want.
I would probably. I gotta figure this out. I want to do
I
something.
just freestyle it, man.
I want it to be fun.
I would
I
just
think
freestyle
it's
it.
so funny because I just think people would like it'd be the funniest thing to do because I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna give it to my church because that's what the Bible says.
They would be
It's
furious.
sad, but
oh,
they
yeah.
totally would.
They absolutely would. Yeah,
I
yeah.
would love
You
that.
get a lot of
It
them.
would totally happen.
But this is so $100,000, and I'd love to hear what you guys say too because this is one of those fun ones.
Yeah. Also, we watch in the comments, Josh. Just checking to make sure we're $100. That's life
I'd
changing.
walk away with that.
I'm going to lunch.
You know what to do.
You know what to do. It's like put gas in my car.
Seriously.
You get given $100,000, no strings attached, no stipulations, no nothing.
They'll tithe the 10 grand to your church, so that's
they
yours.
took care of the tithe.
Yeah.
Oh.
Um,
Okay.
You may not just stick it in the bank.
Oh, 100 grand. My tithe number's wrong. No, it's 100
No.
grand.
All in an investment fund.
And you can't
Wait,
pay off
so
debt.
they tie
You
the
what?
they
You can't pay off
Can't
debt.
pay off any debt?
Nope.
wait. Oh.
Let's make you not pay off
Wait a
debt.
second. So they tithe 10,000 of that 100,000?
Yeah.
Or they already tithed it once I accepted it?
They just tithe it in your name. You're good.
Okay.
Oh, this is tough though, because I would be like, no, I
so
don't.
I'm getting 90 grand?
No,
No,
here's
you're
what's
getting
weird though.
100 grand.
I wouldn't care that you tithed. It's any
first
money
fruit.
that came in, it has to be mine. So
Like,
I would
I'd wanna
actually
tithe.
fight that. I'd be like, I have to tithe my the
Yeah.
10 grand.
That's right.
So anyway, you have $100,000.
I
You-
tithe the 10 grand.
You tithe.
Yeah.
Can't pay off debt.
Okay.
and you can't do-
Ryan wants to let you pay off debt. Go ahead, pay off debt if you want.
I don't have much.
Okay.
So let's do your debt. What? Now what?
I would get a new car, and I would actually help my parents pay off the mortgage on their new house.
Just so you know, guys, I hope you're watching Josh's parents. So he said that.
He
so
said it.
He said it. Just in case money comes in, I want to make sure they hold.
Oh,
you to this.
yeah.
So, how about you, Floyd?
I'm going to have a blast, man. I'm going to have a ball. I'm going to buy a big humidor. I'm going to fill that sucker up. I'm going to buy a new bike, buy Steph a
I love it. He's already back in
Pair of
debt.
shoes.
He's already
He's
back
already
in
in
debt.
debt.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
No,
the new
'cause it's
bike was
cash.
like,
He just went back into debt.
cash.
but the new bike,
Probably
was
buying
like,
an
you're getting
Indian.
the Chief. You're getting the Indian Chief.
I'm probably buying an
you're
Indian
probably
or
spending
fully loaded.
25.
or an Ultra Glide.
What's funny is your humidor and cigars alone, you're already out the 100. That's over. done.
No, I'm buying
Oh, wait,
my
how
kind
big
of
is it?
cigars, not
How
your
big
kind
is
No,
of
it?
you're already
cigars.
out. You're already out. You're gonna buy the big, nice stand-up one that's like 6 feet tall. There were ones at the PCA show that were all fingerprint. So
Well,
you
yeah.
walk up and you push, and it goes.
But
it
there's
opens. It's
there's
freaking
a
awesome.
$1 million ashtray at PCA.
There was $1 million. That's
And
accurate. Yeah.
Judge told me that story. Guy walked in and bought it with his Amex.
Yeah, it was stupid.
Pretty
Very upsetting.
interesting.
So you went motorcycle, humidor. What would you buy,
Car
Steph?
first stuff.
Pair of shoes.
Pair of shoes.
Pair of shoes.
I don't know. Something.
Okay.
All right.
Buy a house.
Thought you
and I
couldn't pay off
definitely
debt. Your
would.
debt's already paid off.
Oh, my debt's
Yeah,
already paid
paid
off. I'd definitely buy a house. That be to me. I'd
Joe
buy a
is
house.
in-
And but in that with that, I
Joe
would.
just got back into debt.
I was
yeah.
going to say, 'cause
And I'm
there's
not gonna spend all of it on that because I definitely would want to take a trip with my family, and I definitely want to buy a lot of cigars.
Okay, so
I don't
what's
really care.
average
I don't really
house right
care
now?
about.
That's what I struggle with.
350, 400?
Probably. I bet
It's
the average is lower, but he would end
It's
up
a
buying
down
it.
payment.
Yeah,
Not,
yeah.
Nothing.
And Joe would
Nothing.
buy-
Oh
insane.
yeah, that's the thing. That's
$12
you're not
million
buying a house
mansion.
with that.
No,
Yeah.
I'm just getting a down payment for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
But
Would
even
you-
then, I don't want to take all of it because I'd like to do a couple fun things with it. if
Would
I
you
had
buy a
that.
smaller house than you have now?
a tiny
I
home?
would. I wouldn't buy. It'd still be
One
3-bedroom. It'd be 1 story. It'd be a 3-bedroom. Something easy to manage, but something where the kids can come back home and stay.
Getting hard to get up down the stairs in your age.
No, it's funny. When we were in
He could afford one
when
of
I
those
was in San Diego, we
chairs.
Yeah, the ramp chairs. that go
we're in San Diego. We stayed at a 2-bedroom Airbnb, and it was the main living room was living room, dining room, kitchen, and then bedrooms on the wings. Epic.
Oh, yeah.
I thought
those
a
are
third
great.
bedroom.
great.
I'm like,
Yeah.
it's
It's so
so
open.
simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, and the main room's big, and that's where you spend most of your time. So, but I would definitely buy a stupid amount of stuff. I would
50,000
consider, by the way, I really would consider if this was a little bit more money. You can buy some pretty cheap homes in Europe too. So
Interesting.
it'd just be interesting to have something like that.
But
too.
then you didn't, yeah.
You can't afford to get.
So you'd
there.
live in Europe,
No.
or you'd save money
someplace
way to travel.
Just Airbnb one in Europe.
Oh, you Airbnb it. Oh.
Yeah.
If you paid cash for an Airbnb in Europe,
The problem
Like,
is
finance
these
the
are
rest
starting
of
to
your
sound
life.
like investments, which we're not doing. So
Okay,
Yeah.
sounds good. What are you doing, Ryan?
that's the hard part. Is my future than I ever have. So I'm like, how can I use this to set everything up for later?
Yeah.
Because I know by the time I'm, 70, probably by the time I'm 60, I'm going to be in rough shape physically, and so I'm like, I gotta take care of myself for then. It's weird. I don't think Ashley wants anything. I don't think the boys want anything. I would totally buy you
The
a bike.
$5,000 one.
I would. I would absolutely buy you the
that
$5,000 bike.
$5,000 bike looks good.
I think I would.
If I had the money, I'd do it now.
53.47 out the door, Floyd. The 347.
100%. I'd be like, yeah, you owe that. I'm going to give. I would probably give. This is what's tough is I would want to give like all my friends like $5,000. Nothing stupid, but be like, oh my gosh, go have fun. I don't know where I draw that line on friends though. It'd be so sad. It's like
No, because then you'd look at that as an investment too.
I know.
Yeah.
It'd be like, all right, I've got $20,000 to just give to.
Oh, you'd do that meal. You and Ashley would do that meal that you talked about.
Oh,
That's like,
yeah.
I don't know. $6,000 a person is.
Oh, I definitely would get
harsh.
sushi.
Pay
I would
for
definitely
the
get
vet
some.
bill for the cat.
I'd get some good sushi. Yes, I would.
Yeah, but you get good sushi now.
I know.
Yeah.
That's what's fun. You do like. It's interesting.
Not
I
the
don't-
best ever though.
Yeah. We're about to do something that was so Jordan Peterson sells this program. I don't know if you've heard of this, where
no.
it's like kind of dreaming about your future, and it starts with if you could have your ideal life in 5 years, what would that be? And so Ashley and I are going to do that. We do the once a year where we sit down and like go over how things are going. And we just talked about it. I'm like, yeah, we should go out. Let's do that. Let's put our ideal 5 year. Because then you back it out and you go like, okay, what do I need to do today to get to that ideal?
Right.
And that can shift in a month. You could be like, you know what, my ideal's changed, which is fine.
Sure.
But I started thinking about it. And it's been fun over the last like 2 days because I think we said we wanted to do it about 3 days ago. And I'm like, what is like? I want to be happier. That doesn't make sense.
Right.
It's
It
like
has to be measurable.
it has to be measurable.
Yeah. It actually involves a lot of do's, things that I've done.
Yeah, it does.
It's
right?
not things that I
Like,
have. It's more things that I.
It's
get to
kind
do.
of bucket list esque, but it's not even like. So, Floyd, you were saying the other day that you want to go see the Northern Lights.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, study like crazy because I just saw yesterday. It was so funny. Is after you had recently says the number of people I hear on a daily basis that come here and go, "Where the heck are the Northern Lights?" Because they're not going on
It's
all
time
the
of the
time.
year. You have to go the right time of the year.
And it's not only is it seasonal, but even it's like certain days you won't see them. So it's almost like you got to be there for 5 days to make sure
Yeah.
you catch a night of it type thing.
cool with that.
Which I was shocked with. I was like, I just thought they were
If you had
fluttering around all the
$100,000,
time.
you could spend a good amount of time there.
Yeah, but I thought that was interesting, and I was like, it wouldn't even be. So I guess it's the 5 years. Like, do you guys? Can you think of something immediately that you're like in 5 years? I want.
I'm married.
Yes.
I have a full album out.
Not yet.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Okay. Married, full album out.
Right.
I like that. Those are both very tangible.
Floyd. Well, I mean, the marriage one, it feels like you have to force to make that happen,
Yeah.
but you can't just make that happen. But
I mean, I have $100,000.
yeah,
It's not difficult anymore.
And
is
now
it?
we're canceled. Wait, I didn't
Yeah,
realize how that
different
could have gone.
scenarios.
I'm
Different
so sorry.
scenarios.
That's not what I meant.
different scenarios. How about you, Floyd?
Just got easy.
Oh gosh.
I actually took it of I'm rich and so I'm
Yeah,
more attractive. That's how
yeah,
I took it.
that's-
so,
that's
but-
what I meant.
But after you said it, I did hear it the other way.
Oh dear.
Too.
Getting a call from the Philippines.
And Russia.
It's hard to conceptualize because I already we had a family night last night, and I already think my life's pretty good. All my 8 grandkids running around,
Yeah.
having a ball.
That is awesome.
All my kids there. My life's pretty good. I already. I know I'm gonna get crapped on for this. I already feel like I have a better life than I deserve.
No, grabbed on.
No, that's the right outlook.
Yeah, and so it's hard for are there things I want to accomplish? Yeah, but there's a lot of work between here and there.
Yeah, but
And
what are
so-
those things?
So that's
what I want to
that's
hear.
really what it is. Like I want to be published.
Okay.
I would like to
So
publish.
Northern Lights was one. And in
Northern
5
Lights.
years, you want to have seen the Northern Lights, right?
Yeah, Steph's
Yeah.
developing a
That's in
plan
the
to
next
try to
year.
do that next
Yeah,
year.
which is amazing.
Which is cool that she's the one that brought it up and did it
friggin'
because she
awesome.
knows it's something I want to do.
Yeah. And
And I don't know. I don't know. Other than that, man, I think it's all family stuff. Like I want to be able to set my big thing for me is I just want to be able to speak in the lives of my kids and my grandkids.
Yeah.
And I feel like they already give me that honor.
You get
So
to yell into their lives.
I scream if I have
Yeah.
to.
Right.
So you don't have that much.
I don't have that much.
Okay.
You're
Right.
content.
I'd like
That's super long.
my,
I'll tell you that
my
right now.
list
But a lot of
is-
them can't be said in public.
That's right.
Yeah.
Mine is I'd like to be done with this episode because it feels like it's never going to end. So that's what I'd like to be in 5 years. 5 years from now, I'd
This
like
is
to
a
say I'm
5-year
done
plan,
with
I was
this.
gonna say it's 5
done
years.
with this episode.
So
there's mine.
we
Ooh.
got some time.
Have we officially moved into long form broadcasting?
It is 1:40.
We've always been in long form broadcasting.
Oh, okay.
So,
But for real, you don't have it. You don't have any.
oh, you're still going to keep going with this, huh?
I still have a cigar.
Joe just wants to
I
get
would
to
like
his
to know your
next
answer.
one.
Yeah, I want to hear your answer.
Joe didn't bring a second cigar.
Where I'd like to be in 5 years. I really thought that was going to make Josh say, well, this has been You Don't Hate It.
So you got nothing.
I got nothing. Yeah, lots of stuff. It's more than can be listed and stuff on. Yeah,
Lots of stuff.
who cares?
I'm now curious, and now I'm excited to end the episode because
Yeah.
I'm going to be like, "Hey, why did you feel so uncomfortable about sharing your
Yeah.
hopes and dreams?"
Yeah.
Ergo,
with the
things you
world.
can't say in public.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thanks for
just
joining
retrieve
us on
that.
this episode on You Won't Hate It. I'm Josh.
In 5 years, I would like to.
That's what I wanted.
sorry, I'm Brian.
I'm Floyd.
I'm Joe.
Ryan, you have to end it.